Hey guys, I'm Sir Undercardsmith, and thanks for clicking on this video and spending your valuable time. I really appreciate it. Before we get into the content of this video, I wanted to inform you about something. AEther TCG now has an official Instagram account. You can access it by searching for AEther_TCG. I think I'll leave the handle in the description. And then you see the little Ethersphere icon pop up. Just follow me to get informed about future updates, cards, and video uploads. Now, if you want, grab yourself some snacks and a drink, sit back and relax, and let yourself sink into the video. Enjoy! This video is going to be a how to play video for the AEther TCG, and to make it a little bit more interesting for you, I actually planned a custom gameplay duel that I am going to show you now, and as the game mechanics kick in I will explain them. So let's first take a look at the battlefield. Now there are a few different zones. Let's start with the deck zones. There's a main deck zone and an energy deck zone. There's a hand zone, which isn't actually a physical zone on the battlefield. However, for gameplay demonstration purposes I have to show you the card somewhere. Then we have the spell zone, where all your spells are activated in. We have a creature zone, where all your creatures are summoned in. We have a graveyard, where all your used up cards and dying creatures are put into. We have a banished zone, that is actually a more specific graveyard accessed by different cards. And we have a void zone that isn't fully implemented yet. However, I have bigger plans for this zone in the future. And then there are the field zones. Those are shared by both players. Each player has one field zone, and a player can only occupy one field spell zone. A player can never access both field spell zones, and if they want to play another field spell, they have to destroy their old one, put it into the graveyard, and then play the new field spell in that specific zone. Both players can control each one field spell zone at the same time though, and those most likely affect both players. That is possible. But yeah, like I said, neither player can control both field spells. Now let's prepare for the duel. Both players take their main deck and energy deck and put them into their respective zones. We talked about which cards go in which deck in the last video, but just as a little reminder, creature cards and spell cards go into the main deck. They get shuffled up and then put into the main deck zone and face down, and energy cards are put into the energy deck, and this energy deck gets put into the energy deck zone face up, because energies all have the same value. If they finish doing this, both players' player points become 50, and also each player gets their individual turn count, because I am beginning the duel. My turn count is 1 right here, and the enemy turn count is 0 right now. Let's start the duel, and let's look at the phases of a turn. The player who starts the duel gets to enter the first special phase of this TCG, which is the starting phase. This phase is only entered once per duel by the starting player, and it replaces the first 3 normal phases of a turn. In this phase, both players draw a total of 5 cards, which consist of 2 cards from the energy deck and 3 cards from the main deck. Also, a player can re-roll their main deck draw once if they want to. They shuffle the 3 cards back into their main deck and then draw new 3 cards. Then the player enters the main phase 1. However, normally a turn would start with the refresh phase, where exhausted creatures and drained spells become active again and the turn count is increased by 1. Then a player would enter the draw phase, where the player draws 2 cards, one from the energy deck and one from the top of the main deck. Then the player enters the interface, where no particular game mechanics are happening. However, this phase might be used by some abilities. Let's get back into the main phase, which the first player starts in. The player can now play cards, which means summoning creatures and activating spells, or activate any abilities, and if they are happy with their turn, they can enter the battle phase, where the player can declare battles with their creatures onto enemy creatures or the enemy themselves. How this works we explain later. We also have the possibility of entering main phase 2, which is basically the same as main phase 1 but after the battle phase. And then the player passes the turn to the opponent. However, before the player does that, if they have more than 7 cards in their hand, they discard cards until they have 7 left. And then the next player starts with the refresh phase again. Now this game has another special phase, which is also only entered once per duel, and this phase is the game ending phase. That phase is only entered if a player wins or loses by basic game mechanics, and in this phase one player is declared the winner. So now let's start with the very first turn of a duel. Our turn count became 1. Both players drew their 5 cards. And let's take a look at our starting hand. It consists of 2 energy cards, obviously. Then the thing that came out of the volcano, which is a rank 10 card. We have Fireball, which is a rank 2 card. And we have Hero, which is a rank 4 card. Now, the turn count determines which cards can be played. So, at the turn count number 1, we can only play cards with a rank of 1. Normally, you can only play cards with a rank that is equal to or less than the turn count. So in our first turn, because we do not have any rank 1 cards, we cannot play any cards. So we might as well just pass our turn to the opponent right now. Now the opponent now increased their turn count by 1, also drew their 2 additional cards. And then decides to summon a creature. But wait, we don't know how to summon a creature yet, so let me explain that to you. To summon a creature, you need 1 or more energy cards plus the desired creature in your hand. In our example, it was 2 energy cards and a returning nightmare. Next, we have to take a look at our battle zone. We put any number of energy cards into the battle zone, then put the creature on top of it. The creature is now summoned. There are also 2 basic positions in which a creature can be summoned. The offensive position and the defensive position. Now, offensive creatures might attack, and to attack they have their power value considered in this attack scenario. In this case, the first number. Defensive position creatures cannot attack. Also, they have their resistance value calculated in a battle, which is the second number. Also, the name of the defensive creature must point to the left. This is important because there's another position a creature can be in that has their name pointing to the right. For now, this is our field. The enemy now summoned Returning Nightmare, which is just a little rank 1 creature with 1 power and 1 resistance. It also has an ability, but that ability is not relevant now. What's relevant though is that we do not have any defenses in our creature zone, which means that our enemy decided to attack us directly. But wait, how do you attack? And how can you attack? Now I will explain right now. An attack consists of 4 steps. And the first step is the attack declaration, where a player declares a creature to attack with and also declares an attack target. A player has the chance of declaring an attack against 4 different targets. If a player does not have any offensive or defensive creatures in their battle zone, the player may decide that his or her creature can attack the enemy directly. Otherwise, the offensive and defensive creatures must be attacked first. Exhausted creatures are also on the battlefield, but they can be bypassed if a player decides to. Sometimes it's more profitable to actually attack exhausted creatures to get rid of them. The difference in attacking those targets lies in the damage calculation. If a player attacks an enemy directly with a creature, that creature just deals damage to the enemy's player points equal to their power, to its power, basically. That's not very spectacular. It gets more spectacular when creatures battle against each other. If 2 offensive creatures battle, both apply their power value. You compare those values, and the stronger creature deals damage to the weaker one equal to the difference. Damage is dealt by discarding energy cards from the weaker creature, and if the damage is higher than the amount of energy cards, excess damage is dealt to a player. If your creature actually battles against a defensive creature, that enemy creature applies its resistance to battle. And if the power of your attacking creature is higher than the resistance, damage is dealt to the defending creature equal to the difference. And excess damage is blocked because the enemy creature blocks the damage that is going through, even if the amount is exceeded. If your creature's power is less than the resistance of the enemy creature reflects the damage onto you as a player, so the difference. So if your 3-powered creature attacks a defensive creature with resistance of 6, you as a player take 3 damage. And yeah, your creature is unharmed in that process. If a creature attacks an exhausted creature, it just deals damage equal to its power, to their energy, and any excess also is dealt to the enemy, because the resistance of exhausted creatures actually is 0. If you calculated the damage, there's the clearance phase, where you make sure that all creatures that have attacked become exhausted, and all energy that has to be discarded is discarded, and also that creatures with no energy left are basically dead. They die, so they are discarded into the graveyard. And if a creature is exhausted, its name points to the right, and well, basically its resistance value is 0, like I said. In our example, Returning Nightmare attacks us as a player, so it deals 1 damage to our 50 player points, which equals to our new player points, which is 49. Returning Nightmare now is exhausted, and well, we lost that amount of life. And surely the enemy creature now is exhausted, and our player points are 49. So the enemy passes their turn to us. We draw 2 more cards, and our turn count is increased by 1. We drew Burning Smoke, which is a rank 1 card, and it has an ability that says inflict X damage to the enemy's player points, where X equals the amount of cards in their hand. So we just use that, and if we count our enemy's hand cards, they have 4. So this card deals 4 damage to the enemy, and the enemy only has 46 player points left. Also, we can play our Fireball because it has a rank of 2, and as a quick reminder, Fireball deals 5 damage to the enemy. So that's what it is. So the enemy only has 41 player points left. We cannot play any other cards though, because, well, our hand has no cards with a rank of 2 or less left. So we pass our turn to the opponent. And the first thing they do is refresh their exhausted creatures, which means putting them into offensive position. Also they draw 2 cards and have their player count increased by 1. And they summon another creature. Let's take a look at that. It's the Enlightened Two Wings. It has a rank of 2, so it is a valid summoning target, and it's a 2/2 creature. It's a basic creature, but it has flying, so that is a more advanced ruling, but we get into this in later videos, I think. So our opponent is entering the battle phase again because we have no defenses, and they basically smack us for 2 damage with the Enlightened Two Wings and 1 damage with the Returning Nightmare. Also those creatures now get exhausted, which leaves us with 46 player points. In fact, those 2 cards are now exhausted and we have 46 player points left. Our enemy then passes their turn to us, getting us 2 more cards and increasing our turn count by 1. We drew Flame Dancer Spirit. Whoops. It's also a rank 2 card, which has very low attack but a very nice resistance value of 5. So it is a good defensive creature. And in fact, we are going to summon it. However, because the enemy has a very strong creature with only 1 energy attached to it, we might as well attack the enemy creature first, getting rid of the Enlightened Two Wings. And let's see. The Enlightened Two Wings is exhausted, so its value is 0. Our Flame Dancer has an attack power of 1, so it deals 1 damage to the Enlightened Two Wings, discarding the energy it has attached, and also, because the Enlightened Two Wings now has no energy attached, it is destroyed, and our Flame Dancer Spirit is exhausted now. So as a resolution, Enlightened Two Wings gone, Flame Dancer Spirit exhausted, and we can basically move on with our turn. We don't have anything left to do right now, but to be honest, I don't want to walk us through 50 more turns, so we jump a few turns ahead. Huh. This is our field now. We have lots of strong creatures onto the battlefield, which we get a look at right now. So we have a hero in play. Well, our turn count is 7. We have a hero in play, which is a 4-2. We have Flame Dancer Spirit left, which is 1-5. And we have the Heat Dragon that gives other pyro creatures +2 power. So our creatures now have 6 power and 3 power. And yeah, we draw 2 new cards because our turn starts right now. And our hand is now 2 energy cards, the Thing we have still in hand, and an Inflame, which when activated gives all pyro creatures in our battle zone +3 until end of this turn. So we first of all summon the Thing, and you might ask, why can I summon the Thing if we have a turn count of 7 and the Thing has like a rank of 10? Well, look at its ability. It says the rank of this creature is decreased by 1 for each pyro creature in our battle zone. Because we have 3 pyro creatures in the battle zone, the rank is now 7, so it equals our turn count, so we can summon it. And that we do. Also, we use our Inflame. And this Inflame is actually giving our creatures a little bit more attack. Now, the enemy's player points also became 30 at some point in this duel. So we have like a hero that gets boosted by the dragon and by Inflame to have 9 attack. We have the Flame Dancer Spirit with now 6 attack. We have the Thing with now 13 attack. And we have the Heat Dragon that only gets boosted by the Inflame for 9 attack. And we attack the enemy directly because he doesn't have any defenses, right? So we attack him directly, reducing the enemy's player points to 0, which is basically one of the win conditions, and we win. Now there will probably be a better game simulation in the future, maybe a real life game simulation. I would like to do that. It makes things more clear. I can get more in depth actually, and some game mechanics we barely touched. They are a little bit more in depth, like battling, but for now we won the duel. And before I leave you, let's get into the basic win conditions. You can win by reducing the enemy's player points to 0, or if the enemy cannot draw any cards from their main deck during the draw phase, or by an ability. Also, you can win by an ability. Well, you can also lose by an ability. And there's a fourth condition. If a player surrenders during their own turn, the enemy wins. And there's a little clause, if any of those win conditions apply to both players at the same time, the duel might end in a draw. If you want a more in-depth look on certain game mechanics like winning or battling or summoning and stuff like that, I can do that. If you want to stay updated for this game, you can also subscribe if you want. And for now, I hope this was a little useful. I know it's not the best simulation ever, but I think it gets the job done. Like I said, we can get in depth later. I wanted to give a little overview of how this game is actually played, and I think I did that with this presentation. And yeah, thanks for watching, have a nice day, keep creating, and stay tuned for the next video. Bye.